have had several people reach out and ask me, is it actually worth going down the, not only the workers' compensation / work cover route? That's the easiest kind of stage in the entire process, but is it worth actually pursuing a damages claim? So pursuing legal action essentially against the company who has been negligent based on all of the evidence, medical evidence, etc. that has been provided. This is really going to come down to your emotional capacity and your values at the end of the day, because for me personally, this wasn't the first time that I had experienced a company who were completely negligent. It was not the first time I had experienced sexual harassment, sexual assault in the workplace. It was not the first time where I had, witnessed CEO of a company being completely incompetent and not complying with certain work health safety regulations. In my personal experience, being in, having worked almost 2 decades of my entire life, I will say that my experience of almost 2 decades has been the majority have been negligent. The majority have been incompetent. It's not to say that every experience has been horrible or bad, but the majority, I can say, have been absolutely negligent or incompetent. And that is why I've never spoken differently or acted differently in front of an owner of a company or a CEO of a company, because I know a lot about the law. I know a lot about workplace law. I know a lot about employee relations law. This has come from my just own research and own knowledge and learnings as, growing up very, very young in the workplace. I started in a corporate environment at 15 years old. I was very young entering the workplace and the workforce. Not only my own personal experiences, but also witnessing certain experiences and people, and also having very close contacts within the work health and safety industry. I've also worked in human resources and within people and culture, so I also know what their roles are meant to be. Working with a background coming from internal communications, I also again know the internal comms procedures of what also needs to go on and what's involved. So for me personally, I have a very, very strong value for equality and integrity. So it is going against my nature and against my personal values of how I live and how I showcase myself in this world. I would be going against my personal values if I don't speak up for other people and if I don't help other people that I witness and experience and see what's going on around me. I am the type of person, like many other people, who, if there is an accident, if someone is hurt, if someone needs CPR, if someone is calling out for help, I am one of those types of people that will go into the first responder mode and will act, in any kind of situation or circumstance. So it goes without saying that for me to go down the damages claim path, of course I had sought legal advice throughout the entire process, and I had been given the advice via my lawyer that it was essentially a no-brainer to go down this path. So I listened to my lawyer. But for me to also not go down that path, it would have been against my, like I said, my values for integrity. Knowing that in this situation and in what happened in my personal experience, that I absolutely put pressure on the company that was negligent. Absolutely, they were put under some kind of stress. And then obviously by the end of, when everything came to a closure and completion of the final outcome, they were held accountable to an extent. Of course, not to the extent that I personally would have liked to have seen, but what I also had to overcome in that experience too was the extent to that humans and these companies will actually go to, the extent that they will go to cover their asses, essentially to protect themselves and their company, to the point of lying and essentially committing fraud. And even in other people that I've spoken to who have been down this path already, or they're going through it, there's people are paying off people to not say anything. It doesn't surprise a lot of people, but when you're experiencing it yourself, and these, like I've said in a previous video, when these people are also women, they're also parents, they have kids themselves who they're raising, it does kind of come at a bit more of a shock when you're kind of thinking, yeah, wow, okay, they're parents, they have kids themselves. It goes without saying that just because you're a parent or just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're a safe human being. Of course, I'm not saying that, but when we kind of look at negligence and sexual harassment in the workplace, the majority is falling under the stereotypical figure of a male. So in this case, obviously with females and parents, my personal experience was more so the witnesses that lied. Coming back down to your values, of course, what you think your lawyer believes is going to be the right path for you, what right direction for you. I also just know that every time that I've spoken up in any workplace, also having an understanding of employee relations and what companies and workplaces need to comply with and what needs to be at a certain standard, then you can actually come in and give whether it's the CEO, whatever leader or the company, feedback in saying, hey, this is what's currently happening, this needs to be addressed, and if you do know the law and if you do know what needs compliance and all of these regulations that do need to be held to a certain standard, you can actually say to them, I'm presenting you this important information that needs to be addressed before it becomes a serious issue and before someone actually, whether it's a fine or media attention, which is usually the scarier side of things for a company, is the media attention versus just a payout. You can give them this heads up, and again, it's whether they choose to take on your feedback, your constructive criticism to help them before it actually goes down a different path. And a lot of the time, many people I know are dismissed, but the ones that do go down work cover, work compensation, and then the damages claim and beyond, it's not an easy route to go down. Of course, you have your lawyer to do majority of the work for you, but the reason I say that is because you're essentially emotionally connected to this thing in your life for what could be years. Every case is different. From start to finish, mine was almost 3 years. So I wanted, by the end of it, I was like, I just want to be severed from this situation. No matter what the outcome was, the fact that it was completely cut now severed from my life, of being emotionally entangled, emotionally attached still essentially to this situation, is the positive of coming to the closure of that and coming to the end of that. So you do have to be wary of your emotional capacity to still be entangled with this situation for however long it is for you. If you do decide to go down this path, otherwise you'll be holding on to this for... I've had someone in my inbox saying that they've been on work cover for 8 years. It's just, there needs to come to a point where you let go and you do the healing and you don't allow what's happened in the past to be impacting your present day today. You're being triggered today, your relationships are impacted today, your work's impacted today, your money's impacted today. It needs to come to a point where you can actually heal your nervous system and let it go and not be holding on to it any longer. So because you're not working, use that money to do the work on yourself. Of course, there needs to be times where you're not going to be able to get out of bed and you're not going to be able to do certain activities because your nervous system is still in shock, or you're going through complex PTSD or whatever it might be. But you need to get to a point where you're using that during the week to do the work on yourself until a point where you can go out and work again, or you go and change careers or whatever you choose. But take advantage of that time and put that into yourself. So your full-time job now is working on healing your nervous system. The most positive outcome at the end of all of it is not even a particular amount of money that you would possibly receive at the end. This is different for everybody, but the most positive outcome at the end of it all is a healed nervous system. That's it. You don't want to be holding on to this kind of situation, this kind of thing that has happened. You don't want to continue allowing previous people, previous company, previous perpetrator to be having such a grip and such a hold over you, and you're allowing them to kind of have this power over you that is impacting your life. Don't let that happen. Don't let them have this power over you. Don't let that stop you from living for your future, for right now. It's not worth it. So take the time and look at the outcome as a healed nervous system. Don't look at the outcome as an amount of money or a lump sum payment, or whatever that might be. Of course, that's always also going to help to invest back into your health and to your healing, but that's also not promised to you. So don't think of that as, I just have to get through it until I get to this day, and then I get a lump sum payout and I'm all good. Like, you can't think like that. So many people that have said to me how long they've been on work cover for a psychological injury, and to allow a company and to previous past experiences to have such a hold over you for that long. I mean, they've still got power over you. That's, who wants that? Nobody wants that. So I know how difficult it is. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's not difficult, but but outweighing your future and moving forward and having a beautiful, healthy, calm and safe life moving forward should outweigh the challenging of being stuck in this dark place and holding on to this weight that is just shadowed over you for such a long time. It's just, you don't need to live like that.